Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months.
Yo, what up, brothers? It's the director. Chargers fans, I get it, okay? Last week was rough. Losing to the Houston Texans, it seemed like everything, the sky was falling. The Chargers are out of the playoffs. Well, we're not dead yet, guys. The Chargers are playing against the Denver Broncos this Sunday to try and keep their playoff hopes alive. Give you guys a quick little update here if you missed it in our last video. This is the most likely scenario that'll help the Chargers get into the playoffs, be it not the only scenario. For you guys watching football this weekend, you gotta root for the LA Rams. If the Baltimore Ravens lose a game, that helps the Chargers. And Miami, they're gonna have to lose to the Tennessee Titans or the New England Patriots at some point. They lose one of those 2 games each. The Chargers win out. We're going to the postseason, baby. And you know what? Justin Herbert deserves a freaking postseason performance and a postseason appearance after the kind of season that he's been having. So the postseason hopes are still alive, and the Chargers have a lot of business to take care of this weekend versus their division opponent, the Denver Broncos. We're going to be breaking down what you got to know for this game and how the Chargers can come out on top. Before we do get started, though, guys, question in the comments like we do every single week. Corporate needs you to find the difference between these 2 pictures. Trick question, they're the same picture. If you get it, you get it. Here's the real question. How many yards and touchdowns will Mike Williams log against the Denver Broncos? And lastly, do you think he'll get an extension with the Chargers in 2022? Well, with that, guys, let's get into this. Before we do, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. The small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into this one. Lights, camera, action. They're the same picture. Oh, dude's a clown. All right, guys, let's get into the injury report like we always do. Who's going to be suiting up for this game in this Chargers versus Broncos Week 17 game preview? Now, there's a couple of players on here that we do need to highlight, like Steven Anderson, who did get a full practice in. That's going to be pretty important later, as the Chargers are a little thin at tight end. One of the deeper positions for the Chargers coming into the season, now down to Steven Anderson, who we're going to be relying on heavily on Sunday. I do think he's going to do very well. Tevin Campbell's coming back. Derwin James, just as of like literally 15 minutes ago, I got the tweet, he's back. That's huge, right, Chargers fans? We know what this team looks like without Derwin. We'll talk more about that in a second. Linval Joseph is back. Uchenna, Jerry. The biggest thing to highlight here on the injury report side of things is Drew Tranquill, who did not practice. He's probably not going to be suiting up. We'll talk about what the Chargers need to do at linebacker here in just a second. The Denver Broncos. Teddy Bridgewater, likely out this game. More than likely out. I think he is out. I think they already announced that Drew Locke is going to be playing this game. Yeah, Drew Locke's not good. And I'll talk more about how bad he is in just a minute, but that's a very big one to keep an eye out for. Ronald Darby is probably going to be out. Who else we got here? Kenny Young, Bradley Chubb, who was just added, I think, to the COVID list just this morning, is going to be out. That's a big absence for this team. Limited practice for a lot of guys on this team. Who knows if any one of these guys decides, or any one of these guys has to sit out this game. Jonathan Cooper down here did not practice with an illness. He might be back too. The big thing to take a look at in this game, though, is going to be your COVID inactives. Let me see if I can make this bigger for the guys in the back. This list is a little bit small. Small in the terms of text, large in the terms of names. The Denver Broncos shut down their practice on Thursday with kind of an outbreak of COVID cases. And there's going to be teams all over the NFL that are bitten with COVID inactives. And this week, it does look like the Denver Broncos, Jerry Jeudy and Bradley Chubb added just this morning. Perhaps their best players on offense and defense. That's going to be a big hit for this team. Of course, you got guys like Bryce Callahan, Mike Ford, Tim Patrick, Calvin Anderson, Caden Stearns. Lots and lots of guys not suiting up for this one. Now, of course, some of these guys who were placed, here on the 27th, 29th, there is some time to clear. I think actually most of these guys, it's too late. I think now with the NFL's new protocol, they have 5 days instead of 10 days to get cleared. I don't know if there's enough time for a lot of these guys, so that might actually be your list. The Chargers as well are not absent from their inactives this week due to COVID as well. The Chargers this morning added Jared Cook to that list. Excuse me, guys, if you can't notice, I'm a little under the weather, okay? So I'm going to be sounding, like Urkel out here. Kenneth Murray also added to the list. The big names we should notice, Storm Norton. Devontae Harris doesn't play great. I think it's better that he's not on the field, to be honest. Dustin Hopkins still hasn't been cleared. I think there is time for him to get cleared. I think there is time, but maybe just barely. The Chargers long snapper, Matt Overton, who's going to be long snapping, we don't know. Trey Pipkins could be out. Alohi Gilman, Chris Harris, Nasir, and Tevon Campbell, all of these guys of which, would definitely have an impact on this team. Dustin Hopkins might be the one I'm most concerned about outside of Jared Cook and Storm Norton. We're going to have to take a look and see what the Chargers are going to do at tackle with pretty much everybody but Rashawn Slater out in this game, depending on what happens the next couple of days with the COVID. So let's get into the keys to victory, okay? How did the Chargers come away on top in this game? Game with really just so much on the line. We make the playoffs if we win this game. At least we give ourselves maybe like a 50-50 shot at it. I think right now the actual analytical number of it was something like 33 to 44%. Somewhere in that margin is the likeliness of the Chargers actually making the postseason. If they lose this game, it's done. It's over. They're not making the postseason, in my opinion. The margins would be so slim. I just don't think it happens. They've got to win this one. So the keys to victory, let's start breaking this game down in terms of different aspects here. Elephant in the room. This is going to be the number one question I've been asked this week. Everyone's asked me, Director, how do we stop the run? The Chargers last week, we gave up what? 150 yards, a pair of touchdowns to freaking Rex Burkhead, people. Rex has been in the league since forever, dude. Since they were building pyramids as goalposts. How did that happen? The Denver Broncos feature two really good running backs in Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon. The sickness is taking me, everybody. This will likely be the only way the Broncos can attack the Chargers defense. The Chargers got a lot of DBs back, and Derwin James, Michael Davis, a lot of big returns. Actually, I didn't even mention that. The biggest returns for the Chargers, Bosa, Eckler, Williams, and Mike Davis. That's huge. That's great. They're down to a handful of players after suffering, 20 last week? But they got a nice DB unit back now, right? So the Broncos, you got to assume that their plan of attack is definitely going to be on the ground. They're going to try and shove it down the Chargers' throat, run, because the Chargers just have not proven they are capable of stopping it. The last time the Chargers played the Denver Broncos just a couple weeks ago, they rushed for 150 yards and 2 scores. Sound familiar? It's because what the Chargers gave up to the freaking Burkhead last week, almost identically. But this time, I think we have 2 more talented running backs to worry about. Inconsistent run defense. This is part 2 of the same topic. What can we do? What can we do with Burkhead going off last week? The Chargers not looking good, maybe outside of a couple of games, the Steelers, etc. What can we do? I think we've seen specific personnel decisions do well against the run in the past. I just don't know if it's as consistent as it needs to be, but it gives us the best shot. I would say keep a healthy rotation of Linval Joseph, Brandon Fayoko, Christian Covington, maybe Forrest Merrill if he's activated in this game, because those big boys in the middle of that 3-4 defense seems to be the best case scenario for the Chargers in hoping to slow down the run. That's going to be the biggest point of emphasis in this week. How did the Chargers shut down Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams? Outside of that, I'm not too worried. They got Cortland Sutton out there. They got Noah Fant, who are pretty good receivers, but they're not going to have Jerry Jeudy. I don't know if Tim Patrick's going to make it back. The run game is definitely where they're going to be the most aggressive, and the Chargers got to figure out a way to shut that down quickly. Okay? Next up, linebacker concerns. Now, the Chargers got some really good linebackers on their roster. Kaiser White, who's been breaking out this season. Drew Tranquill, who's been fantastic, right? But like we saw at the opening, Drew Tranquill is out. Kenneth Murray could remain on the COVID list. Who's in? Who's in? Because Kaiser is great. He's going to be fantastic. We know that. But who's going to be opposite of him? Nick Neiman, who can be okay at times, right? More of a special teams dude. He's very good in special teams. Ogbong Bemiga, who's also pretty good at stopping the run, but maybe not great in coverage. Definitely not great in coverage. I think those are going to be the guys we call upon. I think a healthy mix of the two, depending on situation, is what we're going to see. Nick Neiman maybe in coverage, and Ogbong versus the run. I think Ogbong honestly could have maybe his better or one of his best or better games of the season this week, because the Chargers are really going to be committing to stopping or slowing down the run, and Ogbong happens to be pretty good at it. Either way, Kaiser White should be pretty good. Chargers are going to have some different unique looks at linebacker this week. But you know what? We got some good news, right? The guy on the right there is going to help solve that problem, Derwin James. The return of Derwin James and Joey Bosa in this game. That's a huge piece of good news this week. Those boys are back. We're going to need them. This defense looks completely different without these two guys, right? Derwin could play in the box a lot this week, too. We're worried about middle linebacker, the depth there. I think we're going to see a lot of Derwin in the box, because we got Drew Locke out there, right? I don't know how worried we are about that. We're going to see him in coverage, too, and then, out deep and stuff. But I think we're going to see a lot of him in the box to help slow down those runs, to help limit the liabilities we have at middle linebacker right now as far as lack of depth. That should help quite a bit, especially with, Javonte or Gordon trying to go to the outside. I think Derwin can definitely keep up with them. And he's that physical kind of player, leading the defense from the middle of the field. That could definitely be an impact right there. I think we're going to see a lot of that, right? As for Joey Bosa there on the left, the pass rush last week was very non-existent. It just felt like, what's his name, Davis, he was just throwing all over us, or Davis Mills, right? Throwing all over us, doing whatever he wanted. There was no pressure. Tillery and Nwosu just could not get it done. That whole defense was just too decimated from inactives, et cetera. It was just a pitiful, pitiful day for the pass rush. Joey Bosa being back, though, that'll change things. I think he's going to get to Drew Locke quite consistently. The presence of Joey Bosa and Derwin James being back on the field can help this team keep Denver below 20 points, in my honest opinion. I think these two pieces, the foundational pieces of this defense, are going to show out on Sunday and show us why the Chargers struggled so badly without him last week. Them being back is a huge, huge deal. One that I hope help elevate this Chargers team into the playoffs, keeps them competitive in the playoffs. Without these two, I'm not sure how confident I am in this Chargers defense, okay? So great to have these guys back. Next up, speaking of Drew Locke. Drew locked away. The next segment of this, Drew Locke, do you guys get it? I don't know. It's bad. He's just bad. He's a bad quarterback. I hate to say it, all right? He's had his moments, right? But Teddy won't be suiting up this week. And the last time the Chargers faced or briefly faced Drew Locke, I think he was only in for, a couple of drives. He completed 4 of 7 passes for 26 yards and a pick. 4 or 7 passes for 26 yards and a pick. He's not great. He's not great. And it's going to force the Broncos to do things that they normally wouldn't do. They're going to have to abandon the pass for a lot of this game, right? They're going to have to run it a lot. When they put the ball in Drew Locke's hands, they're going to have to be very conservative with him. Because the Chargers, again, they have a rejuvenated defense with their superstars back, and the Broncos struggling with this quarterback. I don't know. Get him on the ground often and early. I think Joey Bosa is definitely going to help him out there. And make sure you guys have solid coverage. I think the pressure in combination with decent coverage, especially with Mike Davis being back too, is going to generate maybe some pick opportunities, some turnover opportunities for the Chargers. Drew Locke at quarterback. Good news for the Chargers, bad news for the Broncos. And I think, honestly, Broncos fans understand this, okay? Next up, the wide receiver Avengers. No, wide receivers, dude. Last week was devastating, okay? I think the wide receivers this week could help Chargers fans recover a little bit. It's such a gut-wrenching feeling coming out of last week. But I do think the receivers for the Bolts are going to have a day. I think Keenan Allen, in my opinion, plays his best versus Denver. I've seen some of his biggest highlights come versus Denver. I think he's going to step up in this game. Mike Williams coming back is going to help a lot too. The Chargers really do have a nice formula for Justin Herbert to work with as far as wide receiver. Not having Mike Williams last week definitely added to the struggles of a Justin Herbert a little bit. Mike Williams, very important part of this offense, in my opinion. Him being back is going to be very, very big. I think he could have a big day, honestly. I think Keenan Allen gets in the end zone. I think Mike Williams could get in the end zone this week, too. I think at minimum, we notice Mike Williams this week. He's had really quiet weeks, on and off this season. I think we do see a decent week from him this week, right? But I do think that the Chargers wide receivers are going to save the day and rejuvenate this offense, right? I think this is time. I think it's time they start stepping into their own. They start stepping into that playoff form and prove that they're one of the deadliest wide receiver duos in the league this week. Next up, Herbert, Eckler, and the check down. Some Chargers fans hate the check down, right? Come on, pass the guy out deep. Go over top. H-bomb. I get it. We're going to see those opportunities. We are. Jalen Guyton's going to be out there. Josh Palmer, Mike Williams. These guys are going to be out there. But there's been a trend lately. I read an article a couple days ago about Justin Herbert maybe struggling a little bit versus cover 2. That can be tricky, trying to find that open space out there. That's been a big reason why he's been checking down a lot. That's been a very high frequent number in his checkdowns this season. And that can be okay. Play smart. Try and make sure you're generating yards, moving those chains. Luckily for him this week, Eckler and Keenan are the ultimate short yardage weapons for Justin Herbert. Having Austin Eckler back is going to be very, very nice. If he needs to pick his battles versus cover 2, I feel better having Austin Eckler on the field, back on the field, mind you. So keep in mind, Justin Herbert, I like what he's doing. He's been fantastic. I think, last week may have shaken Chargers fans a little bit, but do not, question, whether or not the Chargers are better or worse with Justin Herbert. As long as we got Justin Herbert, this team is a playoff caliber team. This team could be a Super Bowl contender very soon because of how good Justin Herbert is. You know how good he is? I think Herbert needs 2 passing touchdowns this game to break Phillip Rivers' franchise record. Phillip Rivers, one of the greatest Chargers of all time. We're all going to remember him that way. Justin Herbert's been in the league for 2 years. He's about to break that record with a week to spare. I get that there wasn't as many weeks, in Phillip Rivers' era, but whatever. He's about to break it. I do think he breaks it this week. So Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, the check down, I'm all about it. I think they're going to be just fine. Next up, speaking of Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. Pass heavy and often. I think the Chargers are going to need to attack a hobbled Broncos defense through the air, right? Grab that early lead. This is a pivotal point to this week's video. Grab that early lead. Pivotal point, right? What does that do? It slows down the run. If Herbert and company can grab a 2-score lead early, the Broncos, what are they going to do? They're going to be forced to look to Drew Locke to go out there and close that gap. That's something I really hope to see. Chargers fans, that is something that could end up winning us this game. If the Broncos at any point have to go to their bench and say, Drew, it's up to you, man. You got to win this game. We're down by 10. There's 5 or 10 minutes left in the game. You're going to have to go out there and sling it and win it for us down here in the final stretch of the game. The Chargers going to win that. Chargers win that scenario every single time, in my opinion. This defense, with their superstars coming back, Drew Locke not being that good to begin with, you force them to put the ball in Drew Locke's hands, good things are going to happen for the Chargers. And that's why I want this team to pass heavy and often and get that lead very early. Because if they're trailing by 10, by 14, how often can they really say, yo, it's 3rd and 8, we're going to run it? That might be their best option to pick up the first down, but being behind, sometimes these decisions get weighed a little bit differently. Grab that lead early, put the game in Drew Locke's hands. That's a good thing for the Chargers to go grab that win, to try to, clutch that win early. Next up, we'll briefly cover who's protecting Justin Herbert. We talked about this in the COVID report, the injury report. Luckily, we have some of our solid starters, still in the lineup. Lindsley, Filer, Slater, very, very solid guys. Pro Bowlers. Minus Filer, but I think he was slighted a little bit. Pro Bowlers, they're great. But with Storm Norton and Trey Pipkins out, who steps in at right tackle? I'm asking. Chargers. Who steps in at right tackle? Who's guarding Justin Herbert's right side? There could be a guard or somebody stepping in there. If it's Clemente, I'm going to jump off a bridge. But there's got to be somebody that can step in there at right tackle. It could be Filer. This has been the plan forever. Right tackle backup should be Matt Filer. They should put Filer in at right tackle. Grab Hymus, right, and put him at left guard. That's what I've been wanting to see all these weeks. Maybe we see it this week. I think that's kind of down pat what you're going to have to end up with, right? That's kind of where I'm at. That's what I would do. It's been so long that I almost forgot that's a possibility. Matt Filer was a great right tackle for Pittsburgh. Put him in, Chargers. Maybe, just maybe, we'll have found a right tackle replacement for Brian Bulaga if it really comes down to that. I don't know if that's going to happen. Filer's been so good at left guard, but still, that's what I think is going to happen. I don't know why I didn't even have that in my notes. I should have put that in my notes. That's 100% what I think should happen in this game. Next up, 4th and Staley. Dustin Hopkins as of recording this video, is still on the COVID list, right? So you enter, who's his backup? You guys know his name, the legendary Tristan Vizcaino. Oh no, Tristan Vizcaino, I think is what we've come to call him in the channel. He was bad. He was really bad. He struggled mightily in his short time as the Chargers starting kicker. This may end up forcing the Chargers into many fourth down situations where they go for it. So if you're a, big balls, fourth and Staley mayhem super fan, you might see a lot of opportunities for the Chargers to go for it on fourth down this week. So I think the Chargers be up to it. Vizcaino could step in there, extra points, field goal, whatever. But I think if I'm Brandon Staley, I don't do that. Fourth downs, no punting, no nothing, no field goals, fourth downs, fourth and go for it. Lastly, last point here, this is a must win, right? The Chargers could save their season in this week's game, but the Broncos are a tricky team. The Chargers have historically struggled against them. This cannot be one of those times. We must win out the rest of the season in order to make the postseason, and it starts against Denver. With a slew of returning players this week, I believe the Bolts can do it. Chargers fans, this is where this team needs you the most. This is a home game. Get your butt in the seats and roar. Roar. Lightning clap, dude. Get in there and cause some mayhem. Make some noise for your Chargers. We are not dead in the water. Root for this team. We need you this week. Chargers fans in my chat, we need you this week. That positive energy, that support. This team can go to the playoffs. It's actually not as far off as I thought it was going to be once we lost to the Houston Texans. I thought it was over. It's not over. Get out here and rep your team. Rep those Bolts. Shout, support. Be here with that positive energy to support this Chargers team. Okay? We're still in this. So with that, what's my final score prediction? Given the Broncos COVID situation, the Chargers returning player situation, this being such a pivotal game for this team, my score prediction is going to be Chargers 27, Broncos 17. As long as the Chargers can, let's say, put up 14, 17 of those points early, I think it should cap off what the Broncos can do offensively. No, a limited run game, Drew Locke slinging it everywhere. I think the Chargers can handle it. But they got to grab that lead early. That's one of the biggest aspects of this video I wanted to get across. So bottom line for me is the Broncos, Chargers, the entirety of the NFL, they're all suffering from waves of COVID inactives. Okay, last week showed how crippling that could be to a team, especially like the Chargers who lack depth. But we've got a good number of our starters back now. It's time this team get to work and grab the win, grab those opportunities to make it to the postseason. We'll still need help. Remember, Baltimore and Miami must lose one of their final two games, but the Chargers, first and foremost, have to take care of business, take care of their business. The mettle and character of this team is about to be tested. Never give up, never surrender, and that's a message to you Chargers fans too, me included. Never give up, never surrender. Because so long as we've got Justin Herbert, we have hope. And you know what? Justin Herbert, he himself has earned the right to make his first playoff appearance, his first postseason appearance, as the best young quarterback in the league. It starts against Denver. Let's do it, Bolt, baby. Let's do it. Let's do it. Bolt up. Bolt up, Bolt fam. Let's get this dub. Let's take Justin Herbert to the postseason. Well, guys, in the comment section, let me know your answer to the question. What do you think Mike Williams puts up in this game? Do you think he gets a contract with the Chargers next season? That was indeed a clown in that photo. And let me know what your score prediction is for this game. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. Hit us up with a like and sub on your way out if you did enjoy this content. We'll see you next time. And as always, bolt up and stay frosty. Let's get that dub, Bolt Nation. Let's go!